Sources from Parliament indicated that the vetting committee did not agree with the designated Minister of State for Internal Affairs, Dr. Lawrence Muganga.
Offices in Uganda which cannot be held by a dual citizen. President of Uganda, Vice President, Prime Minister, Cabinet Minister, and other ministers. Yeah, Cabinet Minister and other ministers. This is what is disqualifying Lawrence Muganga. That it is not the commentary of Mordecai Murisa. It is not the vendetta against the Banyarandas I've had some people allege on social media. No, it is because the law is already in place. It says if you are a dual citizen, you cannot serve as a cabinet minister or other minister. Period. That's the kindergarten interpretation of the law. No nuances needed here. Absolutely not. It is clear as day.
You're watching Mordecai Marissa Live Political Commentary. Please consider subscribing to help grow Uganda's Voices of Struggle ecosystem. Thank you.
I cannot appreciate you enough for using your valuable time to always go on social media, break down things for people.
And yes, indeed. Broadcasting to you from these United States of the Americas. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. From wherever you're watching me and at whatever time you might enjoy this conversation, I am the aforementioned Mordecai Murisa, and you're welcome to Mordecai Murisa Live. Ready? Let's do this once again. Are you ready, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you for keeping it here every day, 7 a.m. Ugandan time. And here we go. Oh boy. Y'all know how we appreciate that music on this channel. We immensely appreciate that music. I love it. And I know you do, okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're going to be talking about Dr. Lawrence Muganga, the Vice Chancellor for Victoria University, who was appointed State Minister for Internal Affairs by dictator Museveni. His story has dominated mainstream media and, social media or new media as well. And that's what we're going to be talking. I mean, there's this controversy that nobody's letting it go, and for all the right reasons. Now you should know, ladies and gentlemen, that the Museveni criminal regime has for many years, this has pretty much become its modus operandi, championing legal changes that effectively shut the doors of its political opponents. And one of them that has been pointed out is Dr. Aggrey Kiyingi, whose presidential ambitions were thwarted by the Museveni criminal regime. Dr. Aggrey Kiyingi was a Ugandan-born doctor who acquired Australian citizenship. At the time the Museveni criminal regime targeted him, critics warned that the regime was weaponizing the law against its political opponents, that it was tailoring legislation not for the good of the country, but for what many described as short-term political conveniences. And absolutely, that was what we saw. Because at the end of it all, he didn't run for president. Now, in a twist that many are calling poetic justice, the very same system appears to have turned on one of Museveni's own appointees. This is what Shakespeare described in the Hamlet, hoisting upon your own petard. They set a trap for Museveni's political opponents, and now folks are actually falling into that trap. Museveni's proponents. We saw this with John Patrick Mbabazi coming up with this law. Public order management bill, okay? Keep going. And when came time for him to run for president, the same law he had proposed came to bite him, or he had supported. So let me bring you up to speed, especially if you've not watched the news about Uganda in the past 20 hours. So yesterday, the Parliament's Appointments Committee rejected the appointment of Dr. Lawrence Muganga as Minister of State for Internal Affairs over questions surrounding multiple citizenship. According to the reports, Muganga failed to satisfy the committee that he would renounce his other citizenship, including those of Rwanda and Canada, as required. And this is where many people are pointing out that, the irony is impossible to ignore. For years, critics have argued that laws crafted to eliminate political opponents eventually come back to haunt those who create them. What begins as political weapon often becomes legal trap and cannot easily distinguish. You cannot easily distinguish between a friend and a foe if you apply that law. That's what I'm going to be showing you. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's go on and watch what NTV reported about the same. And then from there, I'll be giving you a few more perspective from a few people that have made commentary about the same. Watch here.
Sources from Parliament indicated that the vetting committee did not agree with the designated Minister of State for Internal Affairs, Dr. Lawrence Muganga. Concerns were that 4 of the presidential nominees were holders of dual citizenship, yet the Constitution limits such.
This is my great buddy, Buchana Julius. Worked with him on Record Television and NBS TV. Okay, Buchana, if you watch this this Mordecai Morisa TV, please make sure that you consider me part of your inner circle to share that money. I'm kidding.
Persons from holding the office. Tayewa stated that some of the individuals declared to the committee to have denounced their foreign citizenship.
Because we did a verification with the Ministry of Internal Affairs.
This guy.
And we discovered that we had 3 colleagues who had dual citizenship and 1 colleague who had multiple citizenship. So we have looked at it extensively, and all of them have brought records renouncing their citizenship of the other countries. They've taken a patriotic step of choosing Uganda above all.
The designated Minister of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, Sanjay Tana, the designated Minister of State for International Affairs, David Calvin Echodu, and Muganga were claimed to be holders of dual citizenship.
I mean, before I came in here, I definitely had 2 citizenships. That's the Ugandan citizenship and the Canadian citizenship. Like every young person who really aspires to do better, you leave this country and you go to different countries trying to work there, and you get some money, you help your people you left back home, you help your brothers, your sisters, your parents.
Ayebare denied the claim.
I mean, given I understand, yes, Muganga is a hustler. And I speak as a Ugandan in a foreign country, the US. I could become a US citizen tomorrow. I wouldn't want to lose the privileges of being a Ugandan. So I understand where he's coming from. But we go back to the argument. What does the law say? Under Article 80 of the Constitution of Uganda and the Citizenship and Immigration Act, a person holding dual citizenship is not qualified to be a cabinet minister. Don't take my word for it. I'll go back and show you. I've been making a few research here. Watch here. I contacted went onto this website for read here. Embassy of the Republic of Uganda, Washington, D.C., USA. So I read this. I'm like, okay, this is what you say. Let's go here. What does it say? Offices. I'll make you read here. See, offices in Uganda which cannot be held by a dual citizen. President of Uganda, Vice President, Prime Minister, Cabinet Minister, and other ministers. Inspector General and Deputy Inspector General of Government, Technical Head of the Armed Forces, Technical Heads of Branches of the Armed Forces, Commanding Officers of Armed Forces units of at least battalion strength, officers responsible for heading departments responsible for records, personnel, and logistics in all branches of the armed forces, Inspector General of Police and Deputy Inspector General of Police, heads and deputy heads of National Security and Intelligence Organization, SO, ISO, and CMI, members of the National Citizenship and Immigration Board. Now, read this one. Members of the National Citizenship and Immigration Board. Ironically, this man is being appointed to be Minister of State for Internal Affairs, which is pretty much the gatekeeper for national citizenship and immigration. That's where the irony is. I'm not faulting him. I mean, the man was born in Uganda. He could My problem is with the law. It is with the system of Museveni that usually focuses more on politics instead of looking at the future of a country, of serving the Ugandan people. If we went and included everything these folks wanted in the so-called sovereignty bill, Muganga shouldn't even come close to any office. He would be looked at as a agent of a foreigner and stuff like that. This is what we've been saying, that there's need for a little bit of common sense within our people, especially those who serve the criminal regime. And look, if Muganga is appointed in this position, I can guarantee you he's not going to go there and try to fix things for the betterment of a country. No. He would probably try and find ways of serving Museveni's criminal regime, just being a dummy that listens to everything Museveni says, good or bad, illegal or not, unethical or ethical, immoral or moral. So that's where the problem of the Ugandan people is. It's not about Muganga. You know, I've seen some commentary where people say, you hate Banyarwanda. Absolutely not. I'm a Munyankole myself. I'm closely related to the people of Rwanda and Rwanda descent. I don't hate. And look, it will even actually be stupid for me to hate Banyarwanda. This has nothing to do with foreigners. And the man was born in Uganda. But you guys have told us we should follow the law. We always criticize laws. You are always quiet when we say, hey, we understand you want us to follow this law, but this law is illegal. In its sense, if you really break it down, it is wrong. It is unethical. It is immoral. And then you say, shut up. Just follow the law. And now we come at this point. You want to tell us no. We can actually bend the law. There's an exception for Lawrence Muganga. That's what so many Ugandan people are saying. They're saying, we thought that we follow the law. This man has, and look, there's so many Ugandans who are watching my channels who you might be a dual citizen of the USA and of UK or any country. I wouldn't want you to lose privileges that come with you being a Ugandan. But these folks are sort of selective on when they apply the law. So my criticism is directed at these laws. Can we have some sort of a pause and be like, hey, there's something that needs to be fixed. We are so much fascinated and obsessed on maintaining and consolidating a criminal regime that we are passing these laws without considering of how dangerously impactful they might be in the future. Now we see it with Muganga. And if you want us to, let me play this, but I was going to say, if you want us to now to bend the law, to break it, to grant exception to Muganga, how many other laws can we break to grant exceptions to other Ugandans? Because Muganga is not any special. Okay, let's go on here. There's a constitutional lawyer who was explaining this in better terms. I'm not a lawyer, but listen to this gentleman. This is Judy Byabakama. This is what he was saying.
What dual citizens can do, what they cannot do. We can still have a conversation and say maybe having them in the cabinet is not necessarily their problem. What we cannot do is to ignore the letter and spirit of the existing law.
Exactly.
And pretend otherwise. But as it stands now, dual citizens cannot serve in the cabinet. We want them to serve in the cabinet. Let's have the conversation. We can have the conversation. I think it's healthy to have this debate. And the problems that we need to get rid of, where people may be clandestinely, which is common, clandestinely hold other citizenships that they don't disclose when they're in Uganda. I'm sure we have had ministers in the cabinet before who were dual citizens.
We had Dr. Malinga. He was a minister of health for quite some time, 2 times.
Yeah, that's. I want us to go back to hear what he says here. This is what
I think what my colleague Tony empowered Parliament to prescribe offices which dual citizens are not permitted to hold. So Parliament basically all that it did was to prescribe those offices. So Article 15,
respect the Constitution.
Yes. So Article 15, Clause 7 is the one that mandated Parliament to prescribe offices which dual citizens are not eligible to occupy. And therefore you cannot say that the prohibition, which is in section 23 of the Citizenship and Immigration Control Act
Contradicts
offends
the
the
Constitution.
Constitution. It doesn't. It simply fulfills what is in the Constitution in Article 15, Clause 7. But that having been said, this is a fluid area, and that is why even the Act of Parliament left it to parliamentary resolution to keep determining from time to time what your citizens can do, what they cannot do.
Now, see, that's where Museveni is going to hide. You know, Parliament is resolution. Now, they can determine, oh, there's an exception for Muganga. Really?
Can still have a conversation and say maybe having them in the cabinet is not necessarily a problem.
How?
What we cannot do is to ignore the letter and spirit of the existing law and pretend otherwise.
Exactly. That would be the big problem. See, my criticism is not focused on Muganga. Muganga is a hustler. He's a man who had dreams, who went to Canada, did a lot of things. That's what I know. And probably could be doing other stuff because this man was arrested over allegations of spying on Uganda, remember? So there's a lot of things I don't know about him. But as he mentioned, there are so many Ugandans who travel, leave their country and go in Europe, USA, and other countries and try to apply for citizenship. They become citizens. I wouldn't think they would lose. I wouldn't argue that they would lose their privilege of being Ugandans. My criticism is directed at the Museveni criminal regime system that usually comes up with these stupid laws that they do not have foresight at all. How could this impact me? They don't care. And this is now, coming to bite them. It is really sad. Okay. What else did I wanted to show you here? I saw Museveni making this case. You know, people started sharing this clip on social media. This is what he used to say.
So he used to hear people like Obote always preoccupied with the tribal issues. For instance, Obote was always on the radio. Oh, Museveni is a Mnyarwanda. Museveni is a Mnyarwanda. Museveni is a Mnyarwanda. Museveni is a Mnyarwanda. But suppose I was, what would be wrong with that?
Yeah, because there's something called a constitution that grants you privileges as a citizen or not, or as a foreigner. That being a Ugandan citizen should come with a few privileges. And just like we've seen, you cannot be president of Uganda if you are a foreigner. Okay? If you're a foreigner. That's what Obote was trying to show people, that, hey, this might not be actually Ugandan. And you know why he was saying it? That you might not be a Ugandan citizen. So when you say, what's the problem with that? There's a problem. That's why you cooked just a few days ago this sovereignty protection crap. Where you said, oh, foreigners are the one. Why do you care? If that wasn't a concern, then Obote shouldn't have, been concerned with your citizenship. So why were you concerned just a few months ago? The sovereignty bill and coming up with unsolicited lectures. This man is a liar. He's always been a liar. I don't know. Something wrong, fundamentally wrong with that man. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, when I'll take you just down the memory lane and remind you when the Museveni criminal regime barred Dr. Aggrey Kiyingi from running for president and what he had to say then. Watch.
Yesterday, I sent some of my supporters, led by Mr. Frank Bulira, to the Electoral Commission with a letter of authority from me to pick up nomination forms on my behalf, which is perfectly legal and which has been done before. I also sent the same letter by email to the Uganda Electoral Commission. When my people arrived at the Uganda Electoral Commission, there was a bit of confusion because they did not expect Dr. Kiyingi is going to come and pick up nomination forms. They were told to identify themselves, which they did. And Mr. Bulira had his passport, Uganda passport, which is the ultimate form of identification in any country. He was asked to produce his ID card, which he did not have. He was asked whether he was a registered voter. And yes, he said he was a registered voter, and he is a registered voter. However, they asked him for his registration card as a voter, which was totally unnecessary and has not been done before when other proxies go and pick up forms. He was told to wait, and during that time, the members of the Electoral Commission were consulting their master dictator Yoweri Museveni on what to do. Within a few minutes, after about half an hour or so, the whole place was surrounded by military personnel, fully armed, ready for war. I find this very disturbing.
Now, he goes on to explain on, what became of this. He was charged with, again, the usual charges. Museveni usually charges with his political opponents, all cases that were dropped later. Surprise. This is what's wrong with the Museveni criminal regime. Always looking at on how they can shut down, close doors for its political opponents. Not knowing that the political opponent tomorrow might be one of their friends. They hide under laws, rules, and regulations that might be used against them the following day. This is why we should have a national conversation on things we do, like that sovereignty bill. Ugandans protested. They said no. These people are like, no, we don't care. Remember when we were talking about the amendment of the Constitution to remove the age limit? Ugandans said no. Members of parliament had their backs broken. They were brutalized by the Museveni's jackbooted thugs, the Special Force Command. Members of the Museveni criminal regime, who probably had presidential ambitions, all kept quiet. Now they're realizing that a man is hell-bent on achieving a dream of life presidency. And if anything happens to him, they've seen that he's getting his son ready to take over. Now your dreams are thwarted. You enabled the criminal regime to be established, firmly established, and now your dreams are thwarted. The moment you try to have a semblance of a dream that goes beyond what Museveni wants you to have in mind or to dream, you become an enemy. The likes of Kadaga, the likes of Anita Monk. We have to come back to our senses and be like, there's a country to think about. Like Bobby Wine sang and said, that these leaders we have, misleaders we have, they care about the next election instead of the next generation. There's going to come a time when Mordecai Murisa is not here. When you are not a Ugandan, you're not in Uganda, you're dead. That's what I mean. What are you leaving behind? What are you leaving behind? I think this is, yes. So what's my parting shots here, ladies and gentlemen? My parting shots here really is to say no to those folks who are saying that we're opposing Dr. Lawrence Muganga because of who he is. Oh, we don't like him. I've never met the guy, never had a conversation with him. No. Whether one likes him or doesn't like him, it doesn't really matter. It is completely irrelevant. The issue we're talking about here is the law. The same government that appointed him is the same government that put these legal restrictions in place. If the law says a person holding multiple citizenships cannot occupy a particular office unless certain requirements are met, then the law must apply equally to everyone. We don't bend it, we don't abandon it, we don't break it in favor of that person. No. So what we are witnessing is the danger of making laws for political conveniences rather than for the long-term good of the country. When critics warned that some of these laws were being designed to target political opponents of Museveni, to target individuals like Dr. Chiza Besigye, the likes of Dr. Aggrey Kiyingi, like I've mentioned, and others, government proponents, Museveni sympathizers, and acolytes were so quick to dismiss these concerns. Today, however, the same legal provisions are affecting a person favored by the very system that created these laws. So do not gaslight us. This is not vendetta. This is called consistency. We're trying to say, hey, you say, we condemn this law, but okay, can we be consistent with applying this law? You cannot celebrate a law when it blocks your opponents and then complain when the same law blocks your allies. Absolutely not. That's what many people are talking, when it came to Amama Mbabazi. They say, hey, you are in the government that proposed and supported this public order management law or bill, and now you're complaining? The rule of law has meaning, and if it applies equally to friends and enemies should alike. If Muganga is legally qualified, let the law prove it. And like they've said, he's got to renounce his other citizenships, and everything should be okay. Do not gaslight the Ugandan people and say, oh, you hate Muganga. Nobody hates Muganga. 99.9% don't know who Muganga is. They don't hate him. They're saying, okay, what does the law say? That's it. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think, and I'll continue following these events and updates coming in from Uganda, and I'll keep you posted. Please stick around. Mordecai Murisa Live, we're just getting started. Now that I came back from a break of only 2 days. Bye-bye for now. My name is Mordecai Murisa.
Did you enjoy what you just watched?
I'm sure they did.
I'm going to guess that you did. How about you consider subscribing to Mordecai Marissa Live YouTube channel? Thank you.